Welcome to Radical Release, a healing series within There's No Way I Signed Up for This. This series was born in the in-between, the moments no one claps for, the silent breakdowns, the whispered prayers, the kind of healing that happens when no one's watching. This isn't about getting it all right. It's about learning to return to yourself with gentleness, with faith, and with enough grace to know that not having all the answers still means you're enough. Here, we talk about love after loss, peace after chaos, and how to hear God again, even when it's been quiet for a very long time. So take a breath. This is where we begin the radical release. Welcome back to Radical Release. I want to say this up front. If your healing journey feels like a mess, and if you're tired of wondering whether you're doing it right, then this episode is for you. So many of us are expected to heal and heal quickly. We're expecting healing to feel like relief. We thought the moment we set boundaries, prayed the prayers, cried the tears, forgave the people, we'd feel free. But instead, it's slower, it's quieter, and it always doesn't really feel like progress. But here's the truth. Just because it doesn't look like you imagined doesn't mean it isn't working. Healing doesn't always show up as joy. Sometimes it shows up as stillness, as grief, as letting go. And that's holy too. Today, we're going to talk about how to refocus on the healing when it looks different than you expected. And for this episode, we're building our foundation on Romans 8:25. But if we hope for what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. Healing isn't always beautiful, but it's always there. We live in a culture that glorifies transformation. But sometimes that transformation, when you're watching it on your phone, on your TV, on documentaries and quick reels, it skips the part where it's uncomfortable, unrecognizable, and non-linear. We want to go from being broken, hurt, and scared to being brave, transitioning from grief to glow, and letting go of that trauma so you can speak your testimony. But we think we can do this at the snap of a finger, at the drop of a hat, in a straight line. But in actuality, the healing part can look really messy. And when I say messy, some of those examples are crying for no reason. It's letting go of people who don't understand. It's sometimes showing up to therapy or prayer, feeling numb, but still going anyway. Your healing has a season, and sometimes that season looks like survival. Sometimes it looks like silence, but it's all necessary. I know for me, sometimes the healing pieces are scary, terrifying even. When you are stepping into a different space, a different place, a different way of being that you're not comfortable with, even though it's better than where you were, it's terrifying because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what's hiding behind the corners. You don't know if that gesture is an honest one. So you're on guard. Right? We don't want to go through what put us in the place of fear in the first place, but getting past that is often scary too. So ask yourself, what season of healing are you doing right now? Because everybody's journey looks different. And sometimes we get confused or we get caught up because we compare our journey to someone else's. they were able to get through it quickly, or they were able to get out of that relationship and into a healthy one so quick, or they were able to heal from their wounds, physical and emotional, and now they're thriving. Why can't I? It's simple. Everyone's healing journey looks different, and it's important to note, what season of healing are you doing right now? You also want to ask yourself, are you judging it because it doesn't feel like growth, right? If I'm supposed to be happy because I'm healing, then why do I feel scared? Why do I feel anger? Why do I feel grief? And again, are you comparing your journey to someone else's highlight reel? So many people will put on their reels, their TikToks, their shorts, the great things, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Is you want to glorify and highlight those times where you've made it to the other side, but it's very rare that you see a highlight reel showing somebody doing the work, right? And what that looks like, because it doesn't look the same for everybody. I call them conflict profiles, and everyone has different ones, right? Your conflict profile, when you are stressed or you feel like you're being pushed into the corner, might be explosive. So it might look like throwing things, yelling things, screaming, using profanity to get your point across or to express that out. Where somebody else can be an imploder, and this is more like myself, where all of that you pull inward. So even though physically it looks like you're fine, nothing's wrong, you have a stoic appearance, there's no profanity, there's no yelling, but internally there's a hurricane going on. So depending on what your crisis or your conflict profile looks like, it's going to look different for everybody. And again, it could also be based on circumstance. Sometimes circumstances might make you explode. Sometimes it might make you implode. So again, everybody has different ways of processing. Everybody's healing journey is different. So don't fall into the trap of comparing yours to someone else's and making it look like you're doing it wrong or it's not happening at all. And with that, we want to look at how that looks when we plant the seed, when healing is feeling slow, right? Sometimes it takes time for things to break through the soil. It's an entire process, but here's the thing. Most of the process of growth happens underground. You don't see it, but roots are being established. You're getting grounded, and that's what God is doing for you. We often think that if we're not performing or healing, then it's not happening, right? Performative healing, what is that? Again, you're putting on a show. I'm fine. I'm doing great. Things are so much better now. But when you go behind closed doors, you're in that same space. Because, well, it could be many reasons. We're different people. But a lot of the reason is you're performing to let people know that you're doing okay so they won't worry about it, so they won't ask you questions, so they won't pry. But in actuality, that's not what you're doing at all. Some of the most powerful healing happens in quiet, so that performative action really isn't needed. In Isaiah 30:15, it says, "And repentance and rest is your salvation, and quietness and trust is your strength." You might be tempted to rush the process, right? To prove to yourself or to others that you've moved on, but growth without grounding can lead to a collapse. What does that mean? We can go so fast, right? Go, 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 go. I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And you're moving so fast. And it could be for a multitude of reasons, right? It could be that performative space. I have to perform so people know I'm okay. Or it could be, I have to go fast because I don't want to feel. Or it could be, I have to go fast because I have to survive. But when you're moving so fast, you're not grounding yourself, right? You're building a mansion on sand. There's no foundation. And often when you're hit or bumped into a space, a boundary, a conflict, you collapse. So before going so fast, you want to give yourself time to consider what's happening for you underground, in your soul, the part that no one sees. What's happening with you when you're not talking to someone on the phone, when you're not texting, when you're not going out, when you're not performing? What is going on with you internally then? That's going to be your true measure of healing, or where you're at in your journey. When someone does something nice for you, how do you receive it? When someone does something not so nice, how do you receive it internally? That's going to be a better judgment of where you are in your healing journey versus what performance you're putting on for the day. You also want to consider, what have you been trying to speed up that maybe God wants you to sit with for a bit? And for me, that's probably one of the areas where it's like, but I don't want to sit with this because it hurts. I don't want to sit with this because it's embarrassing. I don't want to sit with this because it's a lie. But when you're sitting with it, you're building a foundation of understanding, of grace, of mercy, and learning. And when you have that foundation, you're able to sustain when things might feel a little different, right? You're not going to just collapse. And what of the quiet, slow parts are the most anointed parts? Let's sit with that for a second. What exactly does that mean? I've said it in multiple episodes. God doesn't speak in a yell. Most times he speaks in a whisper. But if you're moving so fast, if you're performing, if it's loud, you aren't going to be able to hear. So it's sometimes sitting in the stillness and the quiet, when you slow down, is when God's voice is the loudest. And that is a key part of the healing journey. So when you are looking at how you feel, because sometimes you don't know where you're at until something occurs and now you're responding to it, right? And it's like, oh, I thought I was past that. Oh, I didn't think that was an issue anymore. Or, oh, I didn't even know that's where I was wounded. This is when you take the time to refocus on the why of your healing and understand that it's not a timeline, right? There's no one with a stopwatch. Now, I know for myself, after losing my mom for a certain amount of time, people who don't understand grief, at least the grief that I hold, might say, well, geez, it's been such and such years. You should be over it by now. Here's the thing about grief. You don't ever get over it. You learn to live with it. And that's a part of the healing journey too, is having an awareness of what managed expectations are. An example was when I was at the graveyard's part of the ceremony when they were putting my mom on the ground. I went to my cousin who also lost a mother and said, when does this stop hurting? And he said he couldn't answer that for me. But I can tell you when it stops hurting, it doesn't. It never does. You just learn to live with that space in your soul. So having that managed expectation of, this is not going to go away I'm just going to have to learn to live with it here. Helps the healing journey, right? Because now I have a managed expectation. And now it's not, well, I must be moving really slow because it still hurts. It's always going to hurt. So we want to understand too what that healing journey looks like for everybody and having managed expectations on what it will look like for you. So refocusing isn't about pretending it doesn't hurt. It's about remembering. And remembering why you started this journey in the first place. You might have started so your children don't inherit unhealed pain. And here's a little science moment. If you're not about science and biology, you might want to hit the little fast forward button. But there's something called epigenetics. And I guarantee you, if you say that at any party, you will be the smartest person there. But the term epigenetics is basically trauma being passed down generation to generation. Definitely look it up if you want more information about it, but it's inherited. Trauma is contagious. It's inherited through our DNA mutations. So healing can help that. So a reason why you might be on this journey, even though it doesn't feel comfortable most days, so it's your children won't inherit that unhealed pain. Or you can finally live and not just survive, right? Life should not be just about survival. We want to get to a space where we're thriving. We also want to understand that our body and soul can stop living in fight or flight. That is not a regular thing for us as humans to be consistently in. I have this weird thing, it's a hyperactive startle reflex, meaning I jump a lot. And I don't even know when it's going to happen. It's just if there's a loud noise or something, I'm going to jump. My body does it automatically. I'm not thinking about it. But that's just an experience of mine based on the trauma that I've experienced. It's getting better as I go through my healing journey, but that's just another example how biologically you are impacted just as much as you are mentally, psychologically, and spiritually. So having some whys to refer to when it gets messy is so important. And knowing what your why is can keep you grounded when your healing journey looks messy, when it looks slow, and when there's setbacks. And we spoke about that in our last episode. It's not starting from square one, but you are starting with knowledge, with information from where you have gone or gotten to get to that point. So when you have a why of why you're doing the healing, it helps you pull through when days seem really messy. So as we prepare for closing, I want you to take a breath. One of the breaths that fill your lungs, your back straightens up, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Your healing is still valid, whether or not it's visible, whether or not it's quick or slow. It's who you are. You just have to remember your why. In your reflection questions for your journal, what expectations did I have about healing that didn't come true? Right? What are some things that you thought were going to be a part of the journey that just wasn't true? Did you think if you forgave that person, everything will be okay? Did you think if that person apologized, you would magically get better? So what are expectations that you had about healing that didn't come true? The next question, How have you grown in ways that you haven't acknowledged yet? What are some things that you have made progress in, and for whatever reason you feel it's too small to acknowledge or not important enough? Because everything should be considered. So, how have you grown in ways that you haven't acknowledged yet? And number 3, what would it look like to embrace this stage of healing as purposeful? What would it look like to embrace this stage of healing as purposeful? And remember, your healing is not a race, it's a journey. And that's going to look different for other people. It's going to look different for all of us. So even if you don't see it or can't see it or haven't recognized that it's working, know that it is and trust the process. And I know a lot of us do not like that phrase, trusting the process, because sometimes the process is scary. Sometimes the process is messy. Sometimes the process hurts. But know that it's a part of your journey, and keeping your eye focused on the why is going to help you get through those days when healing feels like it's stalled, when healing feels like you're going backwards, or when you feel like just giving up. So, I hope this episode was helpful for you, and if you know someone who could benefit from it, you know the drill. Go ahead and hit that share button and allow us to spread this information for those who could benefit from it. So thank you so much for getting this far. And I also want to tell you about something super cool that we have on our website. It's a spiritual gifts assessment. So you can go take a quick assessment, and it's going to tell you your spiritual gifts and not just identify what they are, but show you how you're using them in everyday life, how you can use them to help your healing process, and how you can use them to show up in the spaces that you are in. And here's a funny story. So one of my gifts is discernment, right? And when I go into the Bible, discernment has a lot of dealing with demonic in identifying them in very, very bold ways. And I'm like, ooh, that's kind of scary. I don't know. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. So what this website, this assessment, this app does is it gives you definitions of what the foundation is in an interfaith way. So not just through the Bible, but the Quran and other religious texts, but also allows you to investigate and inquiry how you're able to use it in everyday life. So definitely check it out. It's free, so why not? So go to the website, marieasia.com, and it's linked in the description box, and check it out. And let me know in the comments what your top 3 are. Let me see what the listeners have. So again, if this helped, share it. If it helped you, let us know. And good luck on your journey. And as always, chase your joy.